getting ready for some eggnog and some pumpkin pie. We've got Zach Orr joining us on Tuesday night at Buffalo Wild Wings in in Bel Air. My bad, the festival in Bel Air. Owings Mills is Monday night. Tuesday night, we got Zach Orr in Bel Air for Harford County folks. And we're going to examine the ways that the Ravens found a way to lose down in Dallas, but many of the guys had some confidence in the locker room after the game. I guess good to see, but by and large, the Cowboys did what they wanted to do. Drew Davison covers all things Star down there at Valley Ranch and Irving and into Arlington for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He has been a frequent contributor here. We didn't have him on before the game last week. Drew, I would say if you and I had spent 20 minutes together last week discussing what the Cowboys would want to do, I would say Sunday sort of played into their hands, right on down to the penalties and running the ball at the end and running the clock down and scoring every time they touched the ball in the second half and turning it into a short game and a quick loss for the Ravens.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys' game plan was pretty clear. They wanted to try and establish the running game. Clearly, the Ravens have the top-ranked run D, and on Sunday, they kind of struggled early on, but they kept pounding the ball, kept going to it. And I thought it was one of those games where, it's usually the running game that opens up the passing game. But this game, the Cowboys were able to hit some deep passes, especially Bryce Beller, and it seemed like the passing game kind of opened up the running game as the game wore on. And the Cowboys were able to kind of milk the clock, have a couple nice long drives to close it out in the fourth quarter.
You've had a tumultuous time around there, right? I mean, for the last month, I think I had you on back in September, and we were talking about, what happens when Tony Romo comes back? Well, what happens is he has a classy press conference, moves to the side, Prescott's in there and playing every bit the part where if he hit a bump in the road, I don't know that Garrett could go get him at this point at 9-1. And on Sunday, and I've looked back at it now, and I know Harbaugh's going to break down the tape here early in the week, and so is Jason Garrett. I don't know that he ever gave the Ravens any opportunity. I mean, he didn't do anything foolish. There wasn't a lot of pressure on him. He's a 75%. He threw for 300 yards. He didn't put the ball in trouble. Even the one sack, and there weren't a lot of pressures at the end of the game, it felt like he took pretty good care of the football and didn't give the Ravens many opportunities.
No, he didn't, and a lot of, he made the right reads. He did some check downs. He didn't take chances when it was unnecessary. It's kind of like, at the end of the first half, they were fine just going for a field goal. They didn't take many shots in the end zone when they could have. So, just a kind of a good, solid game plan for Dak Prescott. And I do think the offensive line, it's kind of the Cowboys' offensive line is kind of the MVP of the day, just in terms of how much, as you said, how much time they gave Dak Prescott. He did not have that much pressure. For as good as the Ravens defense is, we didn't hear a lot of their big names on Sunday, making too many plays.
Well, and then I guess the offensive line not having the kind of penalties that the Ravens had. And when you look back at the Ravens' penalties, I felt like it snuck up on me, Drew. I didn't feel like they were 12 for 136. And I know some of that was garbage time with Steve Smith at the end, and a few of them were PIs. The first time Luke and I talked about it, I thought, well, they probably had like 7 or 8 or 9 penalties. And, maybe it was 70 or 80 yards, but it certainly came at key times. It wasn't. It was sort of legendarily penal on the on the side of the Ravens, which you can't do that against an 8-1 team on the road.
No, you can't. And penalties certainly do kill it. They either defensive, they extend drives for the offense, or they kill drives. If you get them on offense. So it's one of those things where the Cowboys certainly benefited from it. And at the end of the day, that helped. I do think. And I saw Joe Flacco say, this is a team they thought they should have beat, but overall, I thought the Cowboys certainly kind of imposed their will later on in the game, and especially offensively with Ezekiel Elliott, carrying it nine times in that 13-play drive to that kind of sealed the deal.
Well, I mean, you've been around there for various backup quarterbacks and whoever's going to come in for Romo once he gets hurt, which it feels like that's been a pastime there. What makes this kid Prescott so special now that you're 10 weeks into this? I know we talked about this very early on when, quite frankly, he was put in there to sort of put his finger into the dike and stop the bleeding for a couple of weeks, trying to get Romo better and keep them at or around 500 so they'd have a chance. Instead, what we have is this emerging superstar who, to my eyes, down in Texas on Sunday, looked the part, quite frankly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question. I think the key for Dak Prescott's been, I know it's cliche, but he really is a poised guy out there. He's mature beyond his years, and I think a lot of it, he is a workaholic. He's at the Star, the Cowboys training facility. It seems like 24/7, gets early, stays late. So he is, every time he steps on the field, he is prepared for different situations. And at some point, we've been saying this for a few weeks now in Dallas, you'd think the defenses would eventually catch up to him. And I think you've seen him struggle some, but the Ravens certainly didn't, quote-unquote, catch up to him, and that's the league's top defense. So I thought it was by far his most impressive performance on Sunday. Making good passes, doing the timely reads, not forcing anything. And I think, it just goes to show how much preparation and how much confidence he has that he can get it done. He is not rattled whatever stage he is on.
Drew Davison joining us here from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. You can follow his journey out on Twitter at Drew Davison. That's Davison, along with Shireen and company down there at the Star-Telegram there. You're clearing your plans in January, aren't you, Drew? Huh? You figure maybe a little bye, take a weekend off, and then get back after it in the second week of January. That's an unusual feeling down there in Dallas in recent years, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question. I mean, 2 years ago they won the NFC East 12-4, but they certainly didn't come close to clinching a bye, and ended up losing at Green Bay in the divisional round. But yeah, this is very rare, especially in the Jason Garrett years, to have a bye week. The last time the Cowboys actually had a bye was 2007. So it's one of those things. It looks like we'll be covering playoff football down here instead of. I usually go to the Senior Bowl in January, but clearly that might not be the case this year.
No Mobile for you. No oysters for you in January. And Phil Savage, you'll have to send your regards to him down there in Mobile. Drew, for Des Bryant and Jimmy Smith, when you have players you give all this money to, and we've had it here earlier in the year where Yanda hasn't played out of position on Sunday, did a decent job. We spent long stretches without Suggs, long stretches without Steve Smith, as these players, put some years on them. Jimmy Smith has been a guy that's missed time in all the years he's been in. He had a Lees Frank injury, but when he's in there, he's special and different. And the Des Bryant matchup for that. Quite frankly, I'm shocked that they didn't go to him more often. It only felt like he caught 20 balls. He only caught 6. It's just that all of them were back-breaking, first down, easy catches in many cases for Des Bryant.
Yeah, well, I think, that kind of goes to Scott Linehan and Dak Prescott and Des to a certain extent, just kind of knowing when to take those chances, especially, when he's one-on-one. The Cowboys really like those chances. And Ezekiel Elliott was saying afterward that, the Ravens were stacking the box, et cetera. And as I said earlier, once they were able to hit some passes to Des Bryant and they hit a deep one to Bryce Butler, they were able to expose the running game. So it's kind of a pick your poison with this Cowboys offense. And I think, when Des Bryant gets left one-on-one, he can find the end zone multiple times like he did on Sunday.
Is there something about Jason Garrett being sort of the lifer, backup, clipboard carrier guy that can be a unifier in all of these cases and bringing guys together? I saw Dak Prescott's press conference. I mean, hell, it couldn't have been any louder in the press box after the game, by the way. It was just sort of on like an 11. And he talked about offensive linemen going to dinner with secondary members and linebackers eating with running backs and stuff that you don't necessarily, maybe it's something you see in college based on friendships and relationships, but a lot of times in the NFL, it's offense versus defense. It's my linebacker's room versus your tight end's room. It's my wide receiver's room and the secondary room. You know, it's 8 or 10 different rooms of people and two sides of the ball that never, quite frankly, see the field at the same time. Having those kind of relationships, it feels to me a guy like Jason Garrett would be one of the great communicators in that case, and maybe why Steve Bisciotti wanted to hire him 9 years ago and why Jerry Jones has kept him around.
Yeah, there's no question that this is a close-knit group. They all truly enjoy hanging out together. You know, you see guys, you know, on Fridays, for instance, especially during last season, a 4-12 miserable year, guys were bolting the facility as early as possible, getting ready. But this group generally enjoys being around each other. It's a young group, especially with Dak and Zeke and Dez, a very young group, and a lot of the offensive linemen are young too. So, and that youthful energy is kind of caught on to Jason, and you know, it's keeps him kind of young at heart, so to speak. So there is a very good team chemistry there, and like you said, it's usually the defensive line goes out to dinner, what have you. But yeah, this group, both sides of the locker room are very close, very tight, and I do think Jason Garrett does a nice job. If you walk through the locker room, there is Byron Jones' locker is next to Zach Martin's, you know, so it's like you got a safety and an offensive lineman. You got the lockers aren't grouped together.
Harbaugh did that when he came here. You know, Billick didn't have preference on that. Harbaugh went nuts in doing that and having, you know, offense, defense, black, white, young, old, rich, poor, east, west. You know, you know, he did that, and it did create a different kind of dynamic for the team because relationships blossom where they wouldn't normally blossom.
Exactly, and I think that's a good thing, and certainly the Cowboys have brought in, as Jason Garrett likes to say, the quote-unquote right kind of guys, and last year the team chemistry was nowhere near what it is this year, and you had guys like Joseph Randall who had, you know, his issues, and Greg Hardy was slapping, you know, notepads out of coaches' hands and stuff like that.
Rolando McClain's not a saint either. Let's throw him in there, right?
Yeah. So you had all these guys, and you know, I think this team can maybe absorb one or two bad apples, but it's certainly a good, strong clubhouse chemistry going right now.
Drew Davison covering all things Cowboys for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. All right, man. So let's get off the field for a minute. Let's talk about Dallas because it's not my favorite place. I know you're a bit of a transplant as well, you know, from the Missouri, as they say. And, you know, I've been to the stadium, and I saw the Super Bowl there, 5 years ago, whatever it was, when the Cowboys hosted, and it iced all week, and Jerry went crazy, and nobody could get to the game, and the Packers beat the Steelers, which made it a special memory for me, hating the Steelers the way I do. But I hadn't sat, like, in the press box or in the stands and, like, watched the game and seen it unfold. I mean, it really is kind of amazing that they're never really going to have a home field advantage there, right? Like, that's sort of the trade-off of building this giant blimp dome where there's a million things going on, and where, quite frankly, I'm not a prude at all. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm sort of tongue-in-cheek, but it feels like those scoreboards are for the cheerleaders. I mean, every time I look up, all I see is T and A, and I see legs and teeth and hair and pom-poms. You know, it's not very useful as a scoreboard. I mean, I didn't see any stats. I didn't know about penalties. I don't see down and distance. It's really weird the way they use the televisions in there, and what an incredible distraction kind of sort of it is from the football game, and how they run tours on the field. It's just, it feels like you're at a mall watching a football game. It's really weird. I don't think that's ever going to be a passionate, energized, tough place to come in and play.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's two things. Number one, yes, the video board is very spectacular when you first see it, but you got to make sure you. A lot of people can't catch themselves just watching the TV, more than the actual game down below. So, and you're right, they could use a better job of putting up better stats. But the other problem but yeah, I mean, this is not Lambeau Field or Heinz Field or Arrowhead Stadium. The Cowboys have a passionate fan base. It's a big fan base, but they've never had a quote-unquote home field advantage. I even go back to Texas Stadium. I don't think the Cowboys have ever had a home field like that, and I think it's, Jerry Jones likes to say they're the glitz and glamour of the NFL, which kind of means the wine and cheese crowd are the ones who can more afford the tickets to Jerry World, as opposed to, maybe some of your more blue-collar fans that would get loud and rowdy. So
it was not loud and rowdy. I'll say that. I mean, for gathering 90,000 people together, it felt way too polite for me, to be a real home field advantage.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing the Cowboys really need to try and work on, because they went more than a year without winning at home. So until this season, and of course the 4-12 season, they were bad. And even in their 12-4 year, the Cowboys were 4-4 at home and 8-0 on the road. So there's never been a great home field advantage. And I think all the players will say the right things. Hey, we got to give them stuff to cheer about, etc. But at the end of the day, it is such a huge stadium that it's a great place to watch sporting events, but it certainly does not have that nostalgic type feel to it.
For the Cowboys and moving forward here the next couple of weeks, and where the treachery may lie, they're in a really nice spot, right? I mean, you couldn't feel any better going into Thanksgiving. And I know the Redskins, and I thought it was really unfair that they made the Redskins play late into the night on Sunday night and then have to come down there on Thursday. I thought that was kind of weird. I kind of thought that the Dallas Ravens game was a noon kickoff out of deference to the team playing on Thursday. Let them play early. Otherwise, maybe the Ravens-Cowboys game would have been closer to a primetime game or a 4 o'clock game. But the Redskins now come in. I thought there might be a little looking past the Ravens. That clearly was not the case. They feel pretty businesslike at this point.
Yeah, they certainly are. And I think kind of going into yesterday, I was thinking they'd lose one of these two games, either against Baltimore or against Washington on Thanksgiving. And because they went into Pittsburgh 7-1. That's a game some people think could lose, but I really think it kind of boils down to Dak and Zeke kind of saying, hey, we're rookies. We want to show we belong here. And they're not taking a game off. They're not going to just, kind of throttle it back at all. I think they just want to kind of take this league by storm and show that they're here. So right now they're kind of playing with the swagger, playing with the confidence. Because I think a lot of veteran teams, I don't want to say all, but I look at Pittsburgh and then this game, it's like going into Pittsburgh, close game, the Steelers were desperate, and the Cowboys still rally and pull it off. And then on Sunday, of course, they were able to handle the Ravens as the game wore on. So, I won't put winning on Thursday past them, although I think that'll be a lot closer game, a lot tighter game, and I would not be shocked if the Redskins pull that one out.
Well, it's nice when you score on every possession in the second half. You usually win those games, right, Drew?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and they only had 3 possessions, but that was kind of the blueprint of the Cowboys' 9-1 season so far. I mean, long drives, long extended drives, keep the defense off the field. Hence, they don't get exposed as much, and just kind of milk the clock down the stretch.
Yeah, I said a textbook game plan for what the Cowboys want to do, especially in a home game, even after falling behind early. Drew Davison covers all things Cowboys at Valley Ranch, where I drove through. Hey, man, I went to Hard 8 Barbecue. I don't know how anybody out there stays skinny in Texas. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, there was a lot to eat there in the 36 hours that I spent in the Big D, man.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good food. I struggle myself. So.
Especially this week, man. Don't go too heavy on the turkey. Great having you on, Drew. Good seeing you down there deep in the heart of Texas as well. I'm sure we'll be seeing you at some point in January as well.
All right, sounds good.
You got it. Drew Davison can be followed out on Twitter as well as at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. That's star-telegram.com down in Fort Worth, where a lot of Ravens fans went to the Stockyards and Billy Bob's and the Kennedy assassination spot and down in Arlington and running around the stadium and snapping off pictures. It was a big, big weekend until they actually started playing football, and the Ravens lost 27-17. We'll be monitoring all things Bengals this week, and A.J. Green as well as Gio Bernard. The Bengals are struggling and coming to town. We've got eggnog and turkey. We got Zach Orr at Buffalo Wild Wings in Bel Air on Tuesday night. We'd love to see your face in the place. Also doing a show next week with Zach on Wednesday night. Hold that on your calendar as well. We'll be doing a lot of swabbing during the month of December. It is my 25th anniversary on Baltimore radio on December 13th, so we're holding out some hope that fun things will be ahead for you. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. I am a very available individual. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And anything you miss here, you can find in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We come in crystal clear from anywhere you are. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. wherever you are on your mobile device. It's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. And last but never least, if there's any breaking news, rosters, injuries, Orioles, Terps, anything big goes on, you'll get it first on the WNST text service. There's never spam. It's always brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis is here every Thursday and wishing you happy Thanksgiving as well. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.